No one more key at Geelong than Geelong GM Andrew Mackie, who's now on the boundary line with the good buddy Jackie Reid. Good evening, Jack.
Good evening, guys, and thanks so much for your time, Andrew. I thought we'd start with the boys upstairs. We're talking about the last time the Cats had this many changes, 7 changes, no late changes tonight, and they were reflecting on their own experience up in Brisbane one time. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. It was
popped you quad, be honest.
I did. Well, yeah, you guys obviously talking about it. Coming off that Saints game at Marvel, which was an unbelievable game of footy, and I remember we had a lot of sore boys going up to Brisbane, and I was a bit sore off that game, and the morning of, my quad not so good. I reckon a couple of the boys up there might have been around me at the time. And given there was a few already out, I'm like, gee, can I get through this? And I thought, nah, my quads aren't big anyway.
No, you did a femur then.
Yeah, it would have been a cracked femur. 1 week cracked femur. But that's probably the last time there's been this amount of changes. Yeah, I don't know the actual numbers on it, but yeah, it's a significant amount for us. But we just thought that all things being considered this week, that's where it landed. So there's a good opportunity for a few of these guys.
Now, we saw no late changes tonight. Some of us thought maybe Jack Henry might be a late out because he had that nasty hit to the throat last week. How is he, and what was the damage in the end?
Well, luckily enough, there wasn't any damage. He was cleared. But when you're in the throat region, and there's lots of things that go into why we'd take someone to hospital, but there was enough in it to say, let's go and get it checked out. And you just don't ask questions in those situations. So thankful that he's okay, and obviously off a tight turnaround, he's been able to get himself right. And I suppose the only blessing out of going to hospital early, at half time, I think it was his legs are pretty fresh. So especially coming off that 5 days. So yeah, good to have Jack out. Tanner not so. He was probably a bit stiff in the neck region. And just hasn't been able to sort of get going, albeit he's doing really well. And similar to Jack, he's missed any damage to the neck, but at the same time, the short break probably has just meant that he's a little bit stiff for tonight.
Mac, we'll touch a bit further on the personnel tonight and more on the season, but the coach, during one of his pressers, said he had a nice little text exchange with Zach Merrett. Was this a group chat? Were you involved in the group chat, or is this something that Chris just said, look, I'm going to reach out to Zach and just see if he has any interest coming down to GMHBA Stadium?
Oh, you wouldn't know what he's getting up to on his text, but no, it's I don't think Scotty even talked too much about it in his presser. Jimmy got asked the question off the back of a Tom Morris report, and it's that time of year, isn't it? Everyone's getting asked about who you're linked with and everything else that's going on. List management, it's a pretty interesting space. Obviously, we've got a coach who has a twin brother that coached another player, and there's probably a relationship there somewhere along the lines. But from our end, it hasn't been a talking point. To be honest, it's more about coming off a 5-day break and trying to get our game going at a pretty important time of the season. Obviously, there's plenty going on. We've obviously talked about early. We've made a few changes. Short week. My focus personally has been on trying to get these guys in the right headspace to play well tonight.
Well, I'll try another angle. It still points to you being extremely proactive in this space, and there's some names that you're linked to last year. Are you going to circle back to a few of those and see, do they still have an interest of coming down to Geelong?
It's you do, to your original point, first point, you've got to be proactive. Well, yeah, we are, but I would think that 7-8 other clubs are doing the same. And if you're not, you're sort of missing the boat on lots of things. And that being player personnel, that being coaching personnel, that being high performance staff. Lots goes into that and how you set your footy club up into the future, not just the now. So, yeah, we like to think we're having conversations that will hold our football club in good stead going forward. And I'll get the interest out of individual names. And our intention is to be better all the time. So what does that look like? From here, you probably sharpen up on what personnel through from what position you're trying to address. How do you do it? What are you going to do with the draft? Obviously, last uncompromised draft before Tasmania comes in. All these things need to be considered. And what we try and achieve is let's have lots of things on the table to have a talk about that we might want to execute later on.
Andrew, Laura Spurway here. I'll try one more. How closely will you be watching Darcy Wilson tonight?
From a point of view about how do we contain him tonight, very closely. But my job is to sort of general manage in those moments and let the coaches do their thing. Obviously, Darcy's been a great player, continues to really develop, and he's always had such a great running ability. I remember watching him some underage games, and you could see that the way he was covering the ground, and he's now doing that at AFL level and finding the footy. So they've got a few in that category, Laura. So from that point of view, we're on high watch with him and Naz and a couple others about how they move the footy. but it's got to be a system-based thing, and hopefully tonight we can really sharpen that up.
Laura, your angle missed Rowan Marshall too, so
Yes.
we'll leave that though, Mac. We'll move on because you found
You're a
one
good
in
man.
Mitch Edwards. That sure is the case. But, mate, my interest is more around how you're going with those coaches that are of interest that have obviously going to go through a interview pattern at other football clubs. So we talk of James Raleigh, Nathan Buckley and James Kelly. How is it managing the football club at the moment? Because I'm sure it's very busy when you're thinking about just getting a side on the park.
Yeah, you're right, mate, and that sort of spoke to my answer around Jimmy's question. There's just so much to consider. So right now we're really supportive, if we're talking specifically about those assistant coaches, really supportive of them and their coaching journey. We obviously love the job they're doing for us. Individually, they're doing a great job. But at the same time, we want to make sure that all our individuals and we're part of who they want to be going forward, and we've got a role to play in that. How do we keep developing people generally? Scotty had some time off that was talked about that we always promote over the off season. That meant these guys could really step up and almost fulfil that head coach role at times, and on building out programs and what does training look like, what does training loads, how do you communicate with players, with high performance staff, how do you build it all out. So we'd like to think that we're given those opportunities, and we'll just be there, especially Chris, given his experience, be there as someone to talk to around if they do want counsel on how to present or how to talk about philosophies or challenge certain thinking about how they're going to think, because these guys all would need to have their own position on things. So, yeah, we're here. It's a good question. It's one that we continue to have with our people, and I see it as a really good thing. Even if they don't get those jobs, I think they're just better assistant coaches with us for having gone through it.
Good point. For the first time in a long time, Mac, this Cats side has gone through a period where they've lost 5 out of 6 games, and it's been noisy for the first time in a long time. But the confidence in the group, how is that? Because it does look down, does look a little bit flat from where it has been.
Yeah. Obviously, you want to be winning every game you play. That hasn't been the case. I remember a couple of years ago we sort of had similar sort of string of losses in the middle of 2024 from memory. But yeah, couldn't speak highly enough of the individuals here that when we get in on a Monday, we're really clear on what we want. Chris does such a good job in those team meetings, setting the tone. We've got senior players who have been there and understand that it's not the end of the world. And you know, the last thing we want to do is play uptight and not express ourselves out in the field. So that's the aim. We feel like we've actually been playing really well for patches. We probably could have been 10 goals up against the Giants last week. And then it's just been, unfortunately, a bit patchy on the other end. So we've managed to leak a few goals and let teams in at crucial times, which we'd love to sharpen up, and that's going to be a bit of the focus. But for most part, we want to really play our brand and get after it and run and transition and see what we can do.
Mac, the job for Shannon Neal tonight, no Jeremy Cameron obviously, and just looking at some of your stats from last week, scoring from only 30% of inside 50s last round. Obviously you had Jezza on the park, you won't this week. What's the support, if you're going to put it around Shannon Neal, what does that look like, and how is he feeling about the game tonight?
Oh, he's up and about, yeah. He's a really talented player. Super confident in how he's tracking. He's doing a great job, great person. And he's a physical beast. You talk to the guys next to you up there, they'd tell you his quads are massive and really imposing. And I think for him tonight, just really contest well, run. One of his really great strengths is he can get up the ground and turn them around and get back. So we're pretty keen on him to do that. He'll have Jay Polkinghorn up there tonight, and Shannon, to his credit, has become a real leader within the forward line. Obviously, Jeremy last week was playing in the back line, which probably helped us get some of those inside 50s. He was seeing them pretty well, Jez, early in the game. No, Shannon will be okay. We've made some changes with Grind and Closey, young Ollie Wiltshire. We're going to keep developing him. So we've got plenty of running around to support those guys. So it's a bit of a different look, head of the footy, and Paddy's obviously doing his thing. We'd love another game like he had 2 weeks ago, albeit with a bit more support.
Mac, you mentioned Jay Polkinghorn, the debutant. When you look at the VFL, and it's almost retro round sort of stuff, when he kicks goals, he has lots of shots at goal, like 4 goals 6 and 5 goals 6. So definitely knows his way around the forward line. For people listening, what do we expect from the debutant?
Yeah, strong hands. And you're right, Jimmy. He's a bit of an old school footballer. Just understands the forward craft, where to position himself in a contested situation. That's probably his real go-to. And, you know, if he misses a couple through getting his hands on it, well, so be it. We'll take that. The good thing about set shots, and often Jay gets a lot of them, as you were talking to, you can set up the defence behind it. So even if that's the case, if for whatever reason they don't go through, we're better off for it. And he's just deserved his chance. He's performed. He missed a few weeks with a foot injury at the start of the year after he played in a practice game against Hawthorn and performed really well. So we're really excited about him and that next wave of players that we've been able to expose.
Mac, we appreciate your time, and we tried many different ways, and you just played them through the covers beautifully.
I apologise. I'd love to give more.
No, one of the big things that caught your attention was increasing MRO fines failed to change on-field behaviour. Can you please discuss?
It piqued my interest a little bit, especially since, like I said before at the start of the show, Essendon's been fined $20,000 by the AFL because they've got 5 charges of careless contact with an umpire against them. So this report, the AFLPA does a widespread survey of all players, releases it every year. They've done it for 5 years in a row. And based on the MRO, which we know has caused great confusion amongst players, the charges, this report says, that generate the most concern are rough conduct and careless contact with an umpire. Careless contact with an umpire has gone up 61% year on year in terms of the charges and a 350% increase over 2 years. So that's mainly fines. Most of the time that results in fines. Fines have gone up 217% across the board over 2 years, 22% year on year, but nothing's going down. So basically what that means is there's no change in on-field behaviour, but the fines have increased to the level that they have. So they're not working as a deterrent for the issues that the AFL wants to target. Player feedback says that for many low-level offences, so fine offences, a free kick would be a more effective deterrent than a fine. And I was curious in both of your thoughts on this, if there's a pivot to an on-field penalty rather than a fine, because it appears that the fines aren't working as a way to change player behaviour for the low-level offences.
Yeah, I think a club sanction fine, which they've done. So if for people who are unaware, is once you accumulate enough of these offences, the club is fined. So this is what's happened in Essendon's case and other clubs as well. So if Joel runs into the umpire and then Laura runs into the umpire next week, and then I'm finally the one, the straw that breaks the camel's back, our club gets fined. But I don't think you two would really care, would you? Because it's a club fine. It's not coming off your pay docket. Like I know the footy boss, and we'll ask Andrew Mackie shortly about it. You know, them going down and saying, "Hey, I'm going to start docking your pay." Well, that might have a bit of an impact, but a free kick in the game will get everyone's attention.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that a little bit too, Jim. But there's certain sides that this is going to attract more to, though, too. The sides that bring a lot of numbers up the stoppages, where it gives little space for the umpire to go back. Look, there probably needs to be something else done within the AFL where the umpire throws it out rather than throws it up on top of his head, because the margin for error, and I had Max Gawn speak to us about ruck work last week, and it just pricked my ears, but 70% of the time the ball's going back towards the umpire. Like, there's a chance that there's going to be a lot more numbers set up on that piece of the pie. Like, they probably got to expect that at times they're going to get in the road.
So I know my time going in the Wayback Machine when I played all those years ago, the best space was where the umpire leaves. Because when everyone sets up, when you have a look at a stoppage, everyone sort of sets up, oh, okay, the umpire's there, I'm in that position, I'm in that position. So the space that actually opens up is where the umpire. And so sometimes when you're sprinting over, say, there's been a ball up on the halfback flank and, you know, there's been a lot of play, and you run 50 metres. I know working with Brad Ottens like yourself and even Stephen King back in the day, if you didn't know where you're going, you almost at quarter time or three-quarter time, just hit it to where the umpire is.
Yep.
So you didn't actually have to communicate. So that was actually the direct point. So that will still go on. But if you start to pay free kicks, you go, well, hang on, I might have to be a little bit careful here. The game's close. It's on their half-forward line. If I collide with the umpire or trip him up, we could be handing the footy over.
Yeah, I'm interested on when these surveys were done too, Laura, because
So this is 2025. This doesn't take in this year and the changes that have come into place this year with those extra sanctions. And there's another 6 clubs that are on the verge of being fined by the AFL as well: Brisbane, Collingwood, Fremantle, North Melbourne, Sydney and the Dogs. So they've all had 4 players cited.
Yep.
And if you get 5, you cop the 20K like Essendon has. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's a shift next year because, they've been stricter on it this year. But just with fines generally, they're saying 95% of AFL players over the past 2 seasons, they just accept the early plea, they pay the fine, and that's the last that they sort of think about it. So they're not even really going, that $1,500 makes a difference,
No, it makes a difference. No, you only need to go through the corridors on the throughout the clubs that it makes a difference. And why I asked when the surveys were done, because this year being 2026, the fines at halfway through the year were down by 50% on what it was the previous year. It was like a world record. I mean, the Malay last week, the week before, that didn't help, where there's 47 grand coming out at one stage.
Also, clubs take the early plea on fines, Laura, because they're very mindful to pick and choose how much they test the AFL's patience,
challenge.
and that is, and that's the tribunal. So a lot of clubs actually try and play. Hang on, if we're up there every week, we just get on there. Their irrits, and so there's no point arguing the toss over a lot of the fines and go, look, we'll just take that. Just take it. We don't agree with it, but we'll just take it and we'll save up all our ammunition when we've got a big one where there's weeks on the line.
Yeah, so the fine system, it's a written document that a lawyer has to write to the AFL, and then it's sort of like looked through and been very unsuccessful on a number of occasions.
Building up, Geelong versus St Kilda. This is going to be a cracking game. There's so many changes for the Cats. Only one change for the Saints. Angus Hasty is out.
He's been playing well too. I was a bit surprised.
You're a Hasty fan?
I actually am, I really like what he's been doing.
Well, take your Hasty badge off and put a Hunter Clark badge on because he has come in for the Saints. They are a big show tonight. But before we go to a break, David's given us a call. Good evening, David.
Look, I do a little bit of field umpiring. I think key is the field umpires must throw the ball up a lot higher. Then they've got more time to get out of the way.
That's a good point.
And also the ball should not be coming back towards the umpire. They have to step back, throw it as high as they can and move out the way. It would help them enormously.
Yep. I reckon that's like a really good point.
Throw a layup.
Yeah, well, I was never quite good at that too, Jim. But no, that makes point. I think even throwing it out away from your body a little bit too wouldn't hurt at all.
I think I heard an interesting conversation that AFL umpires are the only umpire that need to demonstrate some sort of skill while they're umpiring, and that's what makes them unique. Like most other refs or umpires, apart from running, don't have to execute any kind of skill.
Yeah. Look, the throw up we should be able to get right.
I mean, you should be able to get it right, but...
Yeah. Jerry's up next. Good evening, Jerry.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Look, I personally don't like the stand rule, but if they do want to keep it, they should make the player kick over the man, not have this run-around business and kick it to anywhere around the ground. You should kick it directly over the man who's standing on the mark. That's what I think.
Thanks for the call, Jerry. Joel, will there be any adjustments to the stand rule?
Not that I heard of.
They made the adjustment this year to stop, you picking and choosing, going back 5 or, clear the area. It's now, if you're there, you've got to stand. But we've got some teething problems with it at the moment for some.
For some. I think that the stand rule is actually helping ball movement across the competition. For sides that haven't been able to move it out of their back 50 for a whole quarter, now are able to at least get it a fair way down the field, managing that properly.
There mightn't be a solution. Just the one that I'm going, can we fix it? And like I said, we mightn't be able to solve the problem is when there's 3 or 4 around and it's been a really quick play, that the umpire choosing which one to stand. I think that's where players go, hang on, I'm the one who's running away. He was supposed to stand. So, again, there mightn't be a solution to it, and it's a difficult one, but I think we saw one in the North Melbourne game where it was Comben and McKercher, but there was one at the Adelaide Oval where there was 4 Adelaide players after a quick kick who was only 20 metres away. The defenders ran away because that's their natural thing to go back and defend.
Yep.
A ruckman is a ruckman, and so we just kind of ignore him. He ran past. And the midfielder didn't realise, well, hang on, you're talking to me to stand or him to stand? And that's the one where how can we fix that little...
Yeah, so these are teething problems, really. I think we talk about the North Melbourne one. I think it was Comben and McKercher.
McKercher,
yeah. Comben was the one that followed his man up.
He did.
Like, literally, he should have been aware enough. And this is the teething problem that I talk about. You teach it over a period of time. whether you've done it well enough throughout the pre-season and a club situation, then I think clubs are well in front of other clubs because they've done it a lot better throughout training during the week. But some clubs, it's not their priority at the moment.
Yeah.
You talk about fundamentals and skills for some clubs. That's where they've got to focus on, not so much on some of the other stuff.
Thanks for the call, Jerry. Cameron's up next. Good evening, Cameron.
Hello, Jimmy and Joel. Hope you guys are keeping well.
We are, Cameron.
I've got a question about wildcard round.
Yep.
Right. I understand first versus sixth get a week off. Wildcard round,
Yes.
7 versus 10th, 8th versus 9th, and the winner of those two games goes in to make the 7 and 8. The winner of each game has the highest score goes to 7th, and the next one becomes 8th. What if the two results are both the same? Say Collingwood is finished on 10, they beat Geelong by 10 points, St Kilda beats Western Dog by 10 points. Who, from that point, makes the 7th and 8th up? Is it a better percentage end of the year or what?
Jimmy, you good with numbers?
It's highly unlikely, but the way I understood it is the winner of 7th and 10th plays first, and the winner of 8th and 9th plays second. And I'm happy to be very wrong on that. I've just, like everyone, I'm learning this for the first time.
Sorry, 7th and 10th.
Sorry.
They'll play 5th.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies.
And
So first
8th and 9th will play 6th.
That's what I meant. Yeah. So it goes back to the old final 8 system. So 7th and 10th play 5th. There we go.
And at the moment, if we're talking wildcard, we still have 14 sides that are able to make that final. So we've really only got 4 sides. And Port Adelaide, you could nearly say 15 because their percentage is at 101 still.
Yep. Len's up next. Good evening, Len.
Evening, guys. The guy that rang up and said, with the stand rule, you've got to kick it over the man on the mark. No way. No way, mate. If you want to break away right or left, it's up to the guy on the mark to try and get you or one of his teammates, and that's it. It's play on.
Yeah, I agree more with you too with that. The game just moves so fast. There's a beauty that our game that you can play in 360, and those players that are able to do that are the ones that change the game. The changing patterns tonight are going to be really important in this game that we've got on.